She looked me dead in the eyes at the funeral and said, "You should have died instead." That was the last thing my daughter ever said to me until yesterday, when she knocked on my door with swollen eyes, a backpack, and no place to go. I've replayed that moment from 3 years ago more times than I care to admit. My husband David had just died of a sudden heart attack. It was a calm Wednesday afternoon. We had just finished lunch, joked about the burnt toast I made, and 10 minutes later, he was on the floor lifeless, and I was screaming for help that would never come fast enough. Anna, our daughter, was 23 then. Bright, independent, married young to her college sweetheart, Tyler. She was Daddy's girl, always had been. I didn't resent it though, could I? He adored her in ways that made me fall in love with him all over again every time he looked at her. But in that moment at the funeral, something inside her snapped. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was hate. Maybe it was both. She screamed in front of everyone. Said I was the reason he died. That I stressed him out. That I took more than I gave. And then she said it. "I wish it had been you in that casket." And then she left. She blocked my number. Moved across the country with Tyler. She didn't attend his memorial. Didn't call on his birthday. Nothing. I lost both of them that day, David and Anna. I spent years trying to forgive her in my heart. Therapy helped. Friends helped. Gardening helped. But nothing filled the hole. I told myself she was gone. That she didn't want a mother anymore. And eventually I stopped hoping for the doorbell to ring. Until it did. Yesterday. When I opened the door and saw her standing there, mascara smeared, hair tangled, lips trembling, I couldn't breathe. She looked like a ghost of the daughter I remembered. She opened her mouth but couldn't speak at first. Then she whispered, "Mom, can I stay here? Just for a while." Just like that. No apology. No explanation. My heart cracked open and sealed shut at the same time. I stepped aside. She walked in like she had never left, sat on the couch like it was still hers, and looked around like she was trying to remember what home felt like. After a few minutes she started talking. She and Tyler had been fighting. His mother moved in last year after a surgery and things got tense. Apparently, her mother-in-law never liked Anna. Thought she was soft, entitled, too emotional. Tyler started siding with his mother more and more. Then last week, Anna confronted her mother-in-law about snooping through her phone. Tyler yelled. She yelled. And somehow, it ended with her thrown out of the house with no money and nowhere to go. She said, "I had no one else, Mom." She said it like I'd always been there. Like I hadn't been erased. Like she hadn't spat venom into my heart and walked away without looking back. And I, God help me, wanted to hold her. But I didn't. I said, "Anna, do you remember the last thing you said to me?" She froze. Then nodded. "Barely." I continued. "You told me I should have died. And then you made it true." She started to cry again. I didn't. I had already shed all the tears I had for her. 3 years ago. I told her I'd let her stay for 3 nights. That was it. I needed time to think. She nodded. She seemed grateful. Scared? Maybe both. That night I sat up in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what kind of mother sets an expiration date for her daughter's stay. But also what kind of daughter needs to be reminded how deeply she cut. The next morning I found her in the kitchen trying to make pancakes like she used to as a teen. She burned them. Laughed nervously. "Guess I forgot how to flip," she said. I didn't laugh. She tried again. Later that day, my neighbor Karen came by to return a casserole dish. When she saw Anna, her eyes widened. After Karen left, Anna turned to me and asked, "You told people I abandoned you?" I said, "No. You did that all on your own." Her jaw clenched. "You always make me feel small." There it was. The same deflection. The same twisting of truth. Like she hadn't told me to die. Like I was supposed to feel sorry for her. I almost snapped. But I didn't. Instead I said, "Anna, grief doesn't excuse cruelty. You broke something in me. I'm still trying to figure out if it can be fixed." That night I opened David's old journal. I never read it while he was alive. It felt too private. But something drew me to it now. A need maybe. To hear his voice again. I found a passage from a year before he died. It said, "Anna reminds me of her mother sometimes. Stubborn, sharp, but full of feeling. I hope she doesn't lose that. even if it makes her harder to live with. I worry they clash too much. I wish they saw how much they need each other. I closed the book and wept for the first time in a long time. The next morning, Anna said she wanted to go visit her father's grave. She asked if I'd come. I didn't answer. She went alone. She came back a few hours later quiet. Eyes red. Her voice was hoarse when she said, I told him I was sorry. Then she handed me a letter. Said she wrote it the night before. Asked me to read it when I was ready. I haven't yet. I don't know if I want to. Because here's the thing, I raised her. I know how words can be used to twist, to perform. I don't want an apology written for redemption. I want one born of understanding. And I don't know if she's there yet. So now I ask you, am I the asshole for not welcoming my daughter back with open arms after what she said to me? For questioning her sincerity when she suddenly has no one else? For needing more than just her tears before I open my heart again? Because part of me is still that mother. Still aching. Still remembering. Still wondering if love can be resurrected after it's been buried so long. That night I finally read the letter. It was 3 pages handwritten. Her handwriting hadn't changed. Still slightly tilted to the right, like it was always rushing to get to the end of its own thoughts. It began with, I know I don't deserve your kindness. And ended with, I miss you, Mom. In between, it was a confession. She admitted that her marriage had been cracking for longer than she let on. That Tyler had started pulling away even before his mother moved in. That she sometimes wondered if she married him because she thought she had to keep someone close, because she had lost her father, and couldn't bear to lose anything else. She said she blamed me because it was easier than blaming death. That when Dad died, she felt like someone had cut the anchor from her life and she was just floating. And I had been the only thing left to rage against. She said she didn't mean what she said that day, but she meant it enough in the moment to leave. And she's been ashamed ever since. The words felt honest. Too honest, almost. But that was the thing about Anna, she had always been either completely closed off or unbearably open, nothing in between. And then there was the line that stopped me cold. After I left you, I didn't just cut you out. I cut out someone else too. I didn't know what she meant to me until it was too late. But I think she knew. I think she always knew. I didn't understand what she meant. I turned the page half expecting a name. But there was none. Just, I hope you'll let me talk to her again. Who? That night, I lay awake trying to remember who Anna might be referring to. A friend? A teacher? A therapist? An aunt? She had always been private with her emotions, so even when she formed connections, she rarely let me into that part of her world. The next morning I asked. She looked startled, then nervous. And then slowly she said a name I hadn't heard in years. June. June. Oh God. June was my best friend's daughter. She and Anna were inseparable in high school. The kind of bond that went beyond words. They were so deep in each other's lives, music, poems, late-night calls, sleeping over just to watch the same dumb movies on repeat. At the time I thought it was just intense teenage friendship. But now, looking back with older eyes, I think I knew. And I think I chose not to see it. Anna was quiet after she said the name. I didn't push. I let the silence stretch. Finally she said, we were in love. Or I was. I don't know if she was. I never asked. I kissed her once. And she cried. That broke something in me. Because I remembered that summer. I remembered Anna coming home angry, restless, different. I thought it was just teenage hormones or heartbreak over Tyler, who had just started showing interest. But now I wonder, did she choose Tyler because it was easier? Because it made everything make sense? I didn't know what to say. So I said the truth. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I should have known. She didn't cry this time. She just nodded. And in that nod was all the pain of years buried under pretending. Later that day, I found her in the backyard, sitting under the same tree her father used to read under. She had his old sweater on, the one she used to steal in winter. It still smelled faintly of pine and leather. She said, Mom, do you think people can really start over? I said yes. But not if they pretend the past didn't happen. You have to walk through it, not around it. And then for the first time in 3 years she hugged me. Not stiffly. Not out of obligation. But with the kind of desperate warmth I'd been aching for. And I let her. That night I got a call. From Tyler. I almost didn't answer. But something told me to pick up. His voice was tired, quiet, strained. He said, "I know Anna's with you. I figured she'd go there. I needed to make sure she's okay." I said, "She is." Then silence. And then he said something that I still don't quite know how to process. "I was never good to her. I thought I was. I did what husbands are supposed to do: bills, work, dinners. But I never asked her what she really needed. She never said it either. But now I know why. She wasn't meant for me. I was just a place to hide." He didn't ask for her back. He didn't ask to talk to her. He just said, "I'm sorry for everything. I don't expect forgiveness. Just take care of her." And then he hung up. I sat in the kitchen for a long time after that. Anna came in eventually and asked who it was. I told her. She said nothing. Just stood there, hands in the sleeves of her father's sweater, like a child again. Then she said, "I don't know who I am without people telling me what to be." And I said, "Then maybe it's time you find out." The next morning she said she wanted to go visit June. I didn't even know if June still lived nearby. But Anna had found her on social media. She hadn't messaged her yet. Just looked, watched. She asked if I would drive her. I said yes. I didn't know what would happen. Maybe June would slam the door. Maybe she wouldn't even be home. Maybe it would end in more tears and unfinished sentences. But I drove. Because sometimes being a mother isn't about fixing things. It's about standing beside your child while they try. When we arrived at June's place, a small house on the edge of town, Anna hesitated. Then she stepped out of the car. I watched her walk to the door. Knock once. Twice. Then the door opened. June stood there, shorter hair, older face, same kind eyes. They stared at each other for what felt like years. And then June stepped forward and hugged her. I looked away. And in that moment I felt something I hadn't felt in a very, very long time. Hope. When Anna got back into the car, she didn't speak for a while. Her hands were trembling in her lap. Her eyes were red, but not in the way they used to be, not from shame or grief, but from something else. Something quieter. A breaking open. "She forgave me," she whispered. I didn't know what to say, so I just placed my hand over hers. She didn't pull away. We drove home in silence, but it wasn't the heavy kind. It was a silence that hummed with unfinished things finding their shape. That night, Anna sat across from me at the dinner table. I made lasagna, her favorite. She smiled softly when she saw it. I saw her take a deep breath before she spoke. "Mom, did Dad ever seem different before he died?" I paused. "Different how?" She picked at her food. "I don't know. Sad. Tired. Like he was hiding something." That question hit me like a jolt because yes, he had. There were moments, just a few, in the last 6 months before he passed where David had seemed off. He would stare at the wall too long. Stay up late in the den. Once I caught him crying in the garage and he said he was just missing his brother. That didn't make sense to me. His brother had died 20 years earlier. But I didn't push. I thought it was just age. Stress. Work. A midlife unraveling. But I had always wondered. After dinner I went into the attic. I hadn't been up there in months. Maybe a year. There was a box I had avoided opening since the funeral. It had David's name on it, written in bold black marker. I'd tucked it behind the old photo albums, under blankets and holiday lights. I opened it. Inside were journals, letters, receipts, old Father's Day cards from Anna. And then at the very bottom there was an envelope addressed to me. In his handwriting. I froze. It was sealed. Shaking, I brought it downstairs and sat at the kitchen table. I stared at it for a long time. Anna saw me. "What's that?" I said. "I think it's from your dad." She sat across from me watching. Silent. I opened it. The letter read, "My dearest Ruth, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer around to explain things in person. I don't know how long I have, and I don't want to leave you without answers. There's something I never told you, something I've carried alone for years, and it's been eating away at me. A year ago I went in for a routine checkup. They found something. A spot on my heart. I was diagnosed with a rare form of cardiomyopathy. The doctor said it could take years to develop her days. I didn't want to tell you. Or Anna. I thought I could outrun it. I thought if I ate better, worked less, pretended to be fine, maybe I could cheat fate. But lately I've been feeling it. The heaviness. The tightness. I don't want to scare you, Ruth. I just want to make the time I have left feel normal. If something happens, please don't blame yourself. And please don't let Anna blame you either. I know how much she leans on me. I worry that she won't know where to place her grief if I'm gone. And I worry that you'll become her target because you're the only one left. But listen to me. You are not to blame. You were my heart, Ruth. My steady. My joy. I love you more than I ever managed to say out loud. Take care of yourself. Take care of her if she'll let you. And if she won't, love her anyway. I hope this letter never gets opened. But if it does, please forgive me for leaving so suddenly. I was just trying to protect you. Your David. I finished reading and I couldn't speak. Anna sat across from me, pale. What is it? She asked. I handed her the letter. She read it once. Then again. Then she began to sob loud, gasping sobs that shook her entire body. She curled over the kitchen table like the weight of the truth was pressing her down. I blamed you, she cried. I blamed you and it wasn't even your fault. He knew. He knew and he didn't tell us and I hated you. I walked over and wrapped my arms around her from behind. For the first time in 3 years, she let herself fall apart in my arms. The next few days were quiet. A different kind of quiet. Anna stayed close. She helped me in the garden. Cooked breakfast once terribly but tried. I found her once in David's den, reading his journals. She didn't speak about what she found. Just sat there quietly as if trying to get to know him all over again. And then one afternoon, she asked if we could go back to the cemetery together. We did. She brought fresh flowers. Not roses but wildflowers, his favorite. We stood by his grave for a long time. Then she said, I want to try again. With life. With people. With myself. And then she looked at me and said, if you'll let me. I want to start with you. That night I made tea. She sat beside me on the porch. We talked about nothing, books, the neighbor's dog, a weird cloud that looked like a goose. And then she said something I'll never forget. Mom, you didn't deserve what I said to you. But you stayed standing. You didn't close the door forever. I think you're the strongest woman I've ever known. I looked at her. Really looked. And I saw not a broken girl, but a woman truly trying to be whole. And for the first time in years, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, love was stronger than loss. A week later, Anna found the second letter. It was tucked inside an old copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, David's favorite novel. The one he used to read to her every year on her birthday until she turned 16 and claimed she was too old for bedtime stories. She had pulled the book off the shelf looking for something to read before bed. A folded piece of thick, yellowed paper slipped out from the middle and fluttered to the floor. It was addressed to her. To Anna. In case I don't get to say this in person. She stared at it for a long time before bringing it to me in the kitchen. Her hand shook as she held it out. I took it, turned it over. His handwriting again unmistakable. Slanted but steady. She said, I want you to read it with me. We sat on the couch side by side. Her head leaning on my shoulder like she hadn't done since she was a little girl with scraped knees and wild tangles in her hair. And I began to read aloud. David's letter to Anna. My Anna. I wish more than anything that I could be here when you read this. But if I'm not, it means I didn't get the chance to say the things I should have said long ago. First, none of this is your fault. Not my illness. Not my death. Not what happens afterward. I've seen the way you carry things that don't belong to you. You always have. Even as a kid, you took on the world like it was yours to fix. That's a beautiful thing, but it's also heavy. And it's not fair. You're allowed to be angry. But don't aim it at people who love you. Especially not your mother. She is the strongest woman I know. And she has loved you fiercely even when it hurt. And second, Anna, I know. I know about June. I've always known. Not because you told me, but because I saw the way you looked at her. The way your face lit up when she walked into a room. The quiet way you sat next to her like the world finally made sense. You were in love, sweetheart. I saw it. And I was proud. You didn't need to say it out loud. I just wish you'd known that I would have understood. You never had to hide who you are to be loved in this house. If I'm gone, and you're reading this, promise me one thing. Be who you are. Unapologetically. Fiercely. The world might try to shame you. People might leave. But don't ever let anyone make you feel like you're too much or not enough. You are exactly who you are meant to be. And if someone can't see the magic in that, it's their blindness. Not your fault. I love you. Always. And I'm proud of every messy, complicated, brave inch of you. Your old man. Dad. I didn't realize I was crying until the letter blurred in my hands. Anna was silent, but tears were streaming down her cheeks. She didn't sob this time. She just let the grief come like the tide. Quiet, constant, cleansing. He knew, she whispered. He knew, and he still loved me. I nodded. Of course he did. She sat for a long time, holding the letter like it was the last piece of a puzzle she had been building her whole life without knowing what the picture was supposed to be. And then she said, I've spent so long hating myself for things I couldn't even name. I placed my hand on hers. You don't have to anymore. In the following weeks, everything began to shift. Not suddenly, not magically, but slowly, authentically. Anna got a part-time job at a local bookstore. She signed up for therapy. She started writing again, short stories, poems, fragments of thoughts she once buried deep inside. She called June. They met for coffee. And then again. One day, I saw Anna leaving the house with her guitar slung across her back, something she hadn't touched in years. When I asked where she was going, she smiled and said, to sing. It wasn't just her who changed. I did too. I stopped treating my silence as strength and started using my voice again at church, in the neighborhood, even in the support group I'd been avoiding for widows. I began to let people in. Not out of necessity, but because I realized I was allowed to be held too. 3 months after Anna came back, she moved into a small apartment just 5 blocks away. She visits twice a week. We cook together, sit on the porch, argue over books. Sometimes she brings June. They don't put labels on things. They just exist softly, freely. There are still hard days. Days when grief creeps in like smoke under a door. Days when I walk into a room expecting to see David, or hear his laugh from the garden. But those days don't break me anymore. Because now I'm not grieving alone. People in town talk, of course. They always do. Some whispered things about Anna when she came back. Others looked at me with pity or worse, judgment. But we let them talk. Because we knew the truth. Forgiveness is not weakness. And love, real love, is not perfect or tidy. It is messy and loud and sometimes heartbreaking. But it is the only thing strong enough to bring people back from the dead parts of themselves. And if anyone still wonders whether I was wrong to open my door that day when my daughter knocked, if anyone still dares to ask, am I the asshole for letting my daughter come home after she said she wished I were dead? Here's my answer. No. I am her mother. And being a mother means loving through the ugliest storms and still saving a seat at the table. Because one day they might just find their way back. And when they do, I want them to know. The porch light was never turned off.